Neal Battaglia, saxstation.com. I want to talk about asking questions. So, some people might assume when I say that, what's he talking about? It's actually maybe harder than you think to ask good questions. You can ask a question, but kind of when you ask a question, it's going to reflect your understanding. And depending on what you say and how you ask it, it's going to get you a more useful or a less useful answer. And I'm going to start off this by dividing maybe questions into two categories, general and specific. I would say most times a specific question is going to help you more. If you ask a question like, how do I get better at the saxophone? That's super general and vague and not really a great question. Like some people say there are no bad questions, but there are questions that are more helpful or less helpful, in my opinion. So if you ask a question like, how can I get better? I don't know what you're having a problem with. So it could be with rhythm, it could be with intonation, it could be with your phrasing, your articulation, it could be a lot of different elements. So basically, if you ask a more specific question, if you say like, how do I play the 16th notes in this song in this section evenly? Maybe it's like a tricky fingering or something on the horn. I could probably help you with that because I know exactly what you're talking about. And part of that is giving me some background information sometimes. So there's a form on SaxStation. It's called the Ask a Question form. Anyone can fill it out. There are a few things to fill out though, and it gives me an idea of who you are, how long you've been playing, what you know. Like, do you practice every day? Do you know some scales? Have you played music by ear? Then different things like this. So in general, it's good to have some background. It's also better to have a very specific question. So if you ask me, how do I go between, let's say, B flat and D quickly? I might say, oh, use the bis key instead of the side B flat key. That would probably work better in that situation. In another situation, the B flat key on the side might be more useful. It depends. So if you ask a question, try and be really specific. And what's funny about the process of asking questions is sometimes if you ask a good question, you'll even come up with the answer yourself. Like one time I was at Santa Clara University, that's where I went as an undergraduate, and I was taking classical mechanics with Dr. Birmingham. And basically the school is kind of like a rectangle, and where I was on this part, and the physics was over here, the building for physics department. So basically I went from here to here, the farthest you could go across the campus. I was on a skateboard, it didn't take too long. But I spent a few minutes. I got on this. I think I had my backpack on. I went across campus and I had a question about the homework for this physics class. And basically, I got in the door and I realized the answer to my question to the office of my teacher. And I realized it. I started laughing. And I think he might have laughed at me because it was kind of funny. Because I told him what happened. I was like, oh, I had a question. I just realized the answer. And basically, I don't know, he was friendly and everything, but I knew the answer to my question, so I took off. And I went back and I did the problem. But I came up with a question to ask him. I didn't say, oh, I'm stuck. But I had a very specific question I was working on, and I was thinking about what I knew, what I didn't know, and kind of in my like subconscious, as I just went across to the office, I figured it out. Sometimes that happens. And another one of my professors at the same school, Dr. Barber, he told me that one time he was like doing a problem at night, and he didn't figure it out that night. Some problems are hard. So basically he went to sleep, and in the morning he woke up with the answer. And it's not like that happens all the time, but it happened at least once, and it could happen to you sometimes. So think about exactly what your question is. Think about what you know. Think about how you can approach it. And if you have a question in mind, you might come up with the answer to it. And if it's specific, I might be able to help you with it. That's kind of how it works.